Good morning and welcome viewers. You're watching NewsX and I'm Vaishali Kohli. Now prices of petrol and diesel have been hiked for the fourth time in a span of 10 days. This time by an average of 2.80 paise per litre across the country. The latest increase is expected to add pressure on household budgets and transportation costs as consumers continue to grapple with rising fuel expenses amid fluctuations in global energy markets. The repeated hikes come against the backdrop of elevated global crude oil prices and a weakening rupee, both of which have raised import costs for oil marketing companies. Retail prices had remained largely unchanged for almost 4 years before the recent revisions began earlier this month. Let's now take a look at the fuel prices across cities today. Let me show you that, viewers, on the big screen. Now let's talk about fuel prices today in New Delhi. Petrol is at 101.12 and diesel is at a 95.20, and these, of course, viewers, in the brackets is the rise that has happened. When it comes to petrol, it's at a 2.61 and diesel at 2.71. Let's talk about Kolkata. Petrol is at 113.51, which is a rise of 2.87. Diesel is at 99.82 rupees, which is at a rise of 2.80. Let's talk about Mumbai. Petrol is 111.21. Diesel is at a 97.83, viewers. So this is, of course, the fuel prices today that we're discussing, and the rise is mentioned. Let's talk about Chennai. Petrol is at 107.77. Diesel at a 99.55. So if you see petrol, that's plus 2.46 and diesel plus 2.57. Gurugram 102.77 rupees, diesel 95.44. So this is, of course, the rise that we're seeing in Gurugram as well. So this is, of course, viewers, what a rise, and the fourth hike in all of these days, which is, of course, a disaster when it comes to the common man and his pocket. Noida, petrol is at 102.12, which is a rise of 2.61. And let's talk about diesel, which is at a 95.56, a rise of 2.72. That's Noida. We're discussing Bangalore. Petrol 110.93, diesel 98.80. So this is, of course, the rise. The figure is mentioned there for Bangalore. This is the fourth hike, viewers, that we're talking about. Lucknow is at a petrol 102.05 is petrol in Lucknow, the price for that, and for diesel it's at a 95.55. Let's look at the rise. Petrol plus 2.77, diesel plus 2.91. And viewers, this may look, when we talk about the rise, it may not look like a very high figure, but when you really think about it, this is actually completely emptying the common man's pocket, because this is a basic requirement, and when the fuel price rises, when it comes to such a basic requirement, it is very heavy to handle for a common person like you and me perhaps. Sharad Kohli, Dr. Sharad Kohli, he's a senior economist, he's joining me on the broadcast. Dr. Kohli, welcome. And how do you see these hikes and the ripple effects of it? All right, we don't have Dr. Sharad Kohli yet, but of course, viewers, he will be joining us very shortly on the broadcast. And of course, we've shared the fuel prices with you, and they're up on your screen, viewers. Let's look at Gurugram. The petrol is 102.77, diesel at a 95.56. And just an hour ago, viewers, we had our reporters spread across the city. We had our correspondents from Jammu, from Delhi, to give you an exact view of what's happening, and they were at petrol pumps speaking to consumers. Consumers are certainly not happy. Everybody is saying that it is affecting their pocket, but they don't have an option. They have to grapple with the situation. Dr. Sharad Kohli is now joining me. Dr. Kohli, we're talking about the fourth hike in fuel prices, and that is, of course, damaging when it comes to the common man's pocket. What more would you like to say on this?
Vaishali, the morning is not all that good for the viewers, because this is the fourth consecutive hike. It is now between 7 and 8 rupees that the people are paying higher for petrol and diesel as compared to before this whole hike series started. I think this is going to hit a common man in two ways. One, of course, it's going to upset the fuel bill for people who use petrol and diesel in their vehicles. It is going to offset their bill, number two. And more concerning is this is going to have a cascading effect on inflation overall because diesel is used for transportation. So practically everything that you use in your life is going to get expensive from here on. And I really feel that this could have been avoided, despite the fact that the crude oil prices have been higher and the oil marketing companies have been crying of under recovery. But I think there is a solution to this, and this can be negated. And I'll offer three solutions on your channel today, Vaishali. One solution is that the states should step in immediately, and they should reverse VAT to that extent so that this can be cushioned and this can be, the impact can be minimized as far as the people is concerned. Second is, if that can't happen, then the second solution is that an immediate GST Council meeting should be called. 21 to 22 states in this country, Vaishali, at this point of time are ruled by NDA. So GST Council meeting should consciously take a decision to bring petrol and diesel under GST. That's alternate two. Alternate three, and a very interesting solution, which is a fiscal solution, which is that government in the budget had announced several developmental and public welfare schemes. There's no doubt about that, which are always welcome. But extraordinary times, Vaishali, call for extraordinary measures. I think some of those schemes which are low on priority could be kept on hold, and a fiscal elbow room can be created to fund these oil marketing companies so that they can do just the way the government did with excise when they reversed 10 rupees excise a few weeks ago. I think this can be done so that there is enough funds available if government doesn't want to upset its fiscal deficit target. Then that money can be, used for cushioning these OMCs by way of subsidizing fuel. I think, and we should keep in mind this is not a forever problem. And also, Vaishali, the crude oil prices have come down. They were 105, 104 just before we broke off for the weekend. Today they are below 100. So I think the prices have come down, and this could have been kept on hold. This piecemeal hike is being resorted to because, they're keeping a watch on what's happening in the Middle East. The news of truce between Iran and US, this yes and no game seems to be going on and on. But today when the crude oil prices have come down, I feel this could have been avoided, and the solutions I provided, Vaishali, I think the government must consider this if my voice is reaching the power corridors.
I do hope, Dr. Kohli, that your voice is reaching the power corridors because everybody wants a solution to this. This price rise certainly needs to be tackled with, because whoever we've spoken to on the ground, Dr. Kohli, wants a solution to this situation that we're all grappling with. But I want to come to the next question, which is that the rupee's weakness has also been highlighted as a factor. Now, how much does currency depreciation affect fuel pricing in India?
Well, it does, because 80% we import, and because of the petrodollar agreement with US has with the Middle East area in particular, where crude is traded in dollars. So every time dollar goes up, it inflates our fuel bill. There's no doubt about that. But then RBI, stepped in. It intervened on Friday. And we saw that when it was just about to hit 97 versus $1, it came down to 95.5, 90.6. So Reserve Bank of India has been intervening. Yes, principally speaking, every time rupee weakens, it inflates our fuel bill. And obviously, it makes crude oil even more expensive. So there's a double impact. One, of course, is the price of crude oil, and second, because of the weakening rupee. So it has a spiral kind of an effect. There's no doubt about that. But I think it is high time that oil marketing companies, Petroleum Ministry, Finance Ministry must sit down together because otherwise government is going to face the uproar from the opposition today. There's going to be a lot of noises and people are really going to be upset because, the most part of the population is vulnerable. People in the low income strata, people who have very thin budgets, people who just operate on, low salaries and low income. For them, this is going to be very, very difficult to bear. So I think it is high time that a call should be taken. And one of the three solutions which I provided, Vaishali, must be implemented immediately, at least for now, at least for 1 or 2 months. And you can always go back to your welfare schemes and development schemes later when the situations improve. As they say, extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. So if there is an extraordinary measure which is forcing OMCs to increase the price, this is also an extraordinary situation that the common man, the man on the street, is right now in pain as far as his own budget is concerned, Vaishali.
Dr. Kohli, thank you so much for joining me this morning on the broadcast with those suggestions, and we do hope that some